Well, the mood is buoyant here at the Confederation of Indian Industry. We are coming to you live from the CNBC TV 18 budget headquarters. With us, Tarun Bajaj, our budget editor, continues to be here. Rajiv Memani and Chandrajit Banerjee from CII joining us now. Rajiv Memani, let me come to you first, and let's address that big change that's happened as far as the new tax regime is concerned on the personal income tax side. A, do you believe enough sweeteners on the table to actually get people to shift now? 3 years, people haven't moved. Do you believe this will be the inflection point? And how meaningful are the changes?
So I would say that for income levels below 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, I think this will be a meaningful change. And I would say for income levels above 5 crores, this would be a meaningful change. For people in between, a lot will depend on whether they are paying HRA or not. It will also depend on how many of them are availing ATC benefits or not. So I think, so I would say that it will not be probably as flat as it was earlier. There will definitely shift happen. But if the finance minister is assuming a shift of 35,000 crore, I mean, if I'm assuming the large part of that revenue foregone is that, then I think that seems to be a higher number, because that's almost like if I assume that the total personal tax collection is going to be 9 lakh crores, then I think that number seems to be on the higher side. So I personally feel that they may be slightly optimistic, but it's in the right direction, because I think it simplifies a lot of things, and probably it gives some more money in the hands for consumption. Because you don't have to just invest for the sake of investing. You can actually consume, and you can make the choice of the investment that you're making. If they would have added something on medical, I think that would have been very good, because I think that's a real contingency that people face these days.
Tarun Bajaj, let me address that issue with you. And I know that you would have probably done a lot of scenario building on if you move to various slabs, what the implication and the impact would be. In light of the changes announced, do you see that number of people moving to the new tax regime, even though the new tax regime is now the default tax regime? And again, how much relief will people get on account of this change if they do switch?
So I think the FM had given 2 examples of different income levels where she was showing that people will be benefited. Now the fine print will have to be seen, and what Mr. Memani is saying, between 20 lakhs to 5 crores is some people may not shift if they are taking too many exemptions. But I think overall, if a larger proportion of people come into this regime, then the government, if it finds that there is a certain segment that has not come in, they can work out a process for that. On the 38,000 crores...
35,000 crores.
35,000 crores, which Mr. Memani was saying, I would say she would be absolutely right, because the kind of revenue that the government generates from people getting income below 7 to 8 lakh crores will be around that amount. So now if people are not paying any tax till 7 lakh crores, so that amount will be for...
7 lakhs. Yeah. 7 lakhs.
7 lakhs.
Yeah.
So earlier, I can't remember exactly, but people getting an income up to 8 lakhs or 7.5 lakhs or 8.5 were paying tax to the extent of about 35,000 crores. Now that will be absolutely foregone, and there would be some other relief also that is coming up. So if the revenue implication is 35,000 crores, I think they've done a good job, in a sense that whenever you change from one regime to another regime, you can't say that I'll be 0-0. So the government has said 35,000 crores we'll give. It'll make it much simpler. I'll not go through this maze of various exemptions and deductions. And anybody who gets higher income pays higher taxes. Somebody who's getting less income pays less taxes. I think that is the way forward, and that is the way that the government is
There
going.
have, of course, been some changes being made there as far as senior citizen schemes, etc. are concerned also, and for women specifically. But Chandrajit Banerjee, I can see there's a big smile on your face, and that seems to reflect the mood here across industry on back of what the budget has delivered.
So whatever we were talking before the shows and over a period of time with you and to the North Block, it seems to have been well heard. You know, a few points, like if you really look at the fiscal prudence that we had talked about.
Speaking to the right channel.
So our channel was correct, channel of communication. But seriously speaking, I think we spoke about fiscal consolidation. We see that. We see consumption demand being boosted. We see that. We talked about do not let down on capex. I think that was something where we were cautiously optimistic, so to say, but we are very happy. And if you really look at the economic survey, the credit offtakes, it also shows that private sector definitely is not, you're not taking the entire credit of it, cannot be for OPEX. It is definitely also going into CAPEX. So there is private sector already coming in, so that really boosts the private sector to come in much further, the crowding in effect. I like certain other focus areas. I like the focus areas on urban infrastructure. And I think that's very important when you talk about, when the finance minister said this is a budget for the Amrit Kal. So to look at urban infrastructure, it's a very good, very important focus. Sustainability and green, and really looking at even green products, electrolyzers, battery, all of that, gets a real boost. And there is focus on R&D and technology. Yeah. So for an economy of our type, which is really aspiring to be developed, these are focus areas that we were all expecting. So
yes, a new program for research and innovation, but we have to, of course, again see the fine print for that specifically. Rajiv Memani, what was the standout for you? I mean, we've all discussed CAPEX and all of that, but as far as the fine print is concerned, what's been the standout, both positive as well as what may be a disappointment?
No, I mean, there's honestly no disappointment as yet.
The folks at Camellia and Aranya may be disappointed though, right?
I don't live there, so I can't say, but yes, I won't say it's a disappointment. I think they've still kept it at up to 10 crores, that benefit is there. And I think given the fact that the number of people who are availing that benefits, I think it was probably high time that
we're talking about high value residential accommodation and the exemptions that have been changed in this budget. That is what Rajiv Memani is talking about.
I would say that if anyone is contemplating sale of shares to buy real estate, then I think they should try and finish that in the next 2 months. I mean, that would be the recommendation.
Free advice coming in on CNBC TV 18 from Rajiv Memani.
I would say overall the positive is that, as Chandrajit rightly mentioned, I think the quality of fiscal deficit continues to improve year after year. I think that's one big positive. And I think as the trend has been set by earlier revenue secretaries, I think it's very consistent. I don't want to name anyone.
You can compliment him sitting right next to you.
I think the projections have always been super conservative. So, year after year, the RE or actual. In fact, there was an 8% gap between RE and actual last year. And this year also, I think the BE and RE gap, I think if you're looking at 30.5 lakh crores, that's a good lift over that. And the projections that they have made for next year also are conservative. I mean, 12-13% growth on direct tax, on sort of overall tax revenues, seem to assume a tax buoyancy of roughly 1.1, which is pretty conservative. So I would say overall, all positive, and this transition from from the old regime to the new regime insofar as the direct tax, personal tax is concerned, in a moderated basis, I think is a good way rather than doing it suddenly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very rare that government officials get compliments from industry, especially on the government doing a good job as far as credible numbers are concerned. But, jokes aside, I think that is the consensus that over the last few years, that has been the story as far as the budget is concerned, that the numbers have been credible, the process has been transparent as well. I want to understand from you, the thinking behind ensuring that you actually deliver credible numbers that people now today are talking about and respect?
I don't know what was happening earlier, but I would say budget making process is a very complex process and everything is linked to something else. So at least the 3 secretaries who sit in the North Block have to be talking to each other every day, every moment at the time of making the budget. So there's no point of showing higher taxes, showing a lower deficit, and then achieving the other way around. So we were very conscious of that, and if we were blamed for showing lesser revenues, that also gave us that cushion for things that came up as surprises for expenditure during the year. We were able to cope up with that, and there has always been a confidence in the political executive as well as the executive that we will deliver on the fiscal deficit, which has never been so easy. Especially now that we don't have that proviso where we do extra budgetary and those kind of things. Earlier we were...
It's down to zero.
It's down to zero.
It's down to zero, and I don't know how many people have noticed that, but it's actually down to zero. Yeah.
So that's very important. Earlier, if I would say it's going up by 0.1, I would tell him, okay, take this under the carpet. So now that is not available, so I think kudos to the team.
Kudos to the team. Chandrajit Banerjee, on disinvestment, while some would argue that perhaps the government should be more aggressive. The disinvestment target at 61,000 crores, pragmatic and realistic, given the experience that we've seen.
So what has been saying that we need to have disinvestment focus, definitely, but we need not have disinvestment targets which we never meet. There's no point in keeping a target and not meet. It's good to underpromise, or rather realistically promise, so that we realize it, and then we have the roadmap for it. And I think 61 is a good number, a very decent number given the status of the economy. And I think if we are able to achieve it, implement it, get it, I think we are on track. The last time we achieved it was quite a few years back. So let's come back on achieving the number.
Well, let's come back on achieving the number. And, you know, speaking of numbers, as we've been pointing out, there has been a big drop as far as the subsidies are concerned, whether it is food or fertilizer, and that is providing that additional cushion for the government. 45 lakh crores, that is the expenditure target that the government has put in place. 464 on the Nifty Bank. Markets continuing to hold strong, of course, have come off their intraday highs, perhaps some profit booking that we are seeing. But Rajiv Memani, Chandrajit Banerjee and Tarun Bajaj, many thanks for joining us here at the CNBC TV 18 budget headquarters. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with you. Budget coverage continues after the break.